So I just realized the audience is going to be seeing these videos out of order. The AMD build is done. You guys will see that later this week. But that means I get to start a build I've been looking forward to for a long time, ever since CES in January of this year. We're talking almost 9 months ago. Skunkworks is being retired. I know, everyone's sad. But that's because we're building something big and awesome to replace it. Let me introduce you to my new case that I'm gonna be using in this build. That's an Inman 928, as in 928 pounds. Seriously. You know what, guys? I got new merch. It's available now, crowdmade.com/JayzTwoCents. We got zip-up hoodies, we got tri-blend, we got a new logo. I digress. Since 2012, it's a digress logo. You guys have been asking for that. Anyway, we got all kinds of stuff. Zip-up hoodies, beanies, polos. Don't take my word for it, because obviously I can't do this ad. So just look in the description below and you guys will find the link. Thanks. I know I did that review recently of the Lux 2 case, and I said that I want to do a crazy water-cooled build in there, and I'm planning on it. In fact, that's probably going to be my new office setup, because I'm done with the gold build. I'm ready for something new. And so because I don't use my system for all the editing, Phil uses his, I can go crazy water-cooled and stuff and not have to worry about easily changing out parts and stuff, which Phil has to worry about because that system's uptime is more important than anything aesthetic and crazy water-cooled and stuff. But this is something I've had planned for a while now. The Inman 928, I first took a look at this in January of this year, almost 9 months ago at CES 2019, where they had this case on display. Super, super limited. In fact, the only reason I even got one is because they did a second run of these. And I think the first run, I want to say they only made 15 of these cases, and they're extremely expensive. They're like $1,000. But this is going to be one of the new centerpieces of my home office. I moved into my new house earlier this year, and my office has just been nothing but a storage space because I want to do my home setup right. I've never had like a super high-end, super well put together, well thought out, like gaming / man cave. And I finally can make one, and that's what I want to do. So this is going to be an extremely overkill system that I've been wanting to do for a long time. And the fact that anyone was willing to send me one of these once they did their second run made me just beyond excited because of what this chassis just sort of represents, like the elegance of it. Not exactly the most crazy water-cooled friendly case. I mean, I could fit two 420mm radiators in there, and that's about it. What we're gonna do today is we're gonna show you some of the pieces I'm gonna be using. We're gonna kind of do a quick walkthrough of the case, and then kind of show you some of the fitment and stuff that we have to think about when we do these builds. You guys said you like when we take you along for the ride and go through all of the talking points of how I prepare for a build. And fun fact, look at these thumb screws. Probably the most overkill, over-engineered thumb screw ever, which is why this case is awesome. I mean, even the tempered glass side panels have these corner pieces that are like clamped down on the glass. And these are aluminum too. This entire chassis is aluminum. It's a brushed aluminum, kind of a space gray with polished chamfered edges, and it's got these crazy anodized corners, and both sides of the glass are the same. But if you can see right here, you could fit two massive power supply units because this was the first, if not the only chassis that was dedicated to fitting like the Dominus motherboard for the 3175X. And as much as I would love to be putting that in here as my personal system, hey, nobody need 28 cores and 56 threads in their home PC.
Plus, we gotta be ready to beat Steve, whatever.
Not only that. So because nobody needs that many cores is why I'm going with 18 and 36. So what's kind of unique about this chassis is you can see that it is just fully open. Now in terms of radiators, I can fit dual 420s up top. It comes with 12 140mm Crown RGB fans, which I'm excited about because they put off a ton of air. We've tested these fans in the past. They're not the quietest fans, but Skunkworks was never quiet, so this one doesn't need to be silent either. But the thing is, they are daisy chainable, and we'll show you that in a second, which means one wire to control a whole bank of fans. One RGB wire, one PWM wire, and I can control them, which means I don't have a crazy amount of wires going everywhere like you deal with like Corsair and NZXT and a lot of those brands where they've got to have like dedicated controllers and all that sort of stuff. And we'll kind of start at the bottom here. You can see we've got drive sleds that can pop out, but these can be multiple things. They could be drive sleds, they could be pump mounts. One of the things that really is dated with Skunkworks is the fact that I still have two 4 terabyte Western Digital black drives in there. And then I've got a 980 gigabyte SATA SSD and a 240 gigabyte main drive in there that's an SSD, a SATA drive. So we are definitely stepping it up in terms of the I/O, because that is what's drastically lacking in Skunkworks. But I have a lot of backups and family photos and movies and things like that I might need a spinning drive for. My only concern about this though is that you add a spinning drive to a solid chassis like this, then it's probably gonna be kind of noisy, but we'll have to play with that. One of the things I'm kind of debating with this chassis too, and I haven't decided if I want to do this yet, is if I want to paint the pieces. They do an amazing job on their anodizing. The problem is they do a dusted anodize, very similar to how I showed you I do the dusting technique in the video you haven't seen yet on the tubes. You guys will have to look for that later. This has kind of a rough texture to it. So this makes it hard to keep clean for multiple reasons. It gets dusty and you go to wipe it off, the dust just sticks. So I'm kind of debating doing like a satin sort of a finish on this so that it's got a little bit of slickness to it, if that makes sense. That's one of the reasons why when I did the Tau 2.0 chassis for Terry Crews, which was also an Inman chassis, it had the same feel to it. That's also why we just did a polished powder coat for the whole chassis, the red powder coat. Not just because of the Old Spice theme, but because of this very reason. You see how I just marked on the chassis right there? Like I can just be like, X marks the spot. I'm not actually scratching it. I'm just leaving residue. Like that sanded my fingernail. That's fingernail on there. That's kind of gross, right? I should probably clean that off. But like just as an example, look at me, just wiping this with paper towels. You see how it's leaving these lines? It's because it's actually leaving, it's like sanding the paper towel and leaving some of it on there. So microfiber would probably be better for this. So that's why I'm debating kind of doing a tear down of this chassis and just, like I said, doing some sort of custom, maybe even a gunmetal. Like I might even paint it like a gunmetal. See, here's a problem with Skunkworks. I've had that build since 2014. It's progressed, obviously. But I had that same chassis. I've been looking at that same cube. It's not really a cube, it's a rectangle. I've been looking at that same gunmetal rectangle for 5 years. And all those, Case Labs made amazing cases. Like ahead of their time when it came to modularity, it's modular. I'm kind of tired of looking at that same cube rectangle with a window, to be honest. The build inside looks awesome, but the exterior is just super plain. And that's where this comes in. So that's why I'm excited about this one. So one of the things I'm gonna do, obviously, is I'm gonna remove one of these power supply shrouds. I don't need both of these. I think I might leave the middle one here, that way I can do fitting pass-through on the bottom. But this again is because the Dominus board, which was the first 3175X motherboard to release in time for Computex last year, technically, required 2 24-pin plugs. And because of that means dual power supplies. So that's why they've actually got a mount here for dual power supplies. But if you get rid of one of these and you get all kinds of room down here to do pass-through fittings, and I wanna do that. I wanna have tubes come out and kind of go through the motherboard wall again. I did that with the bottom of Skunkworks where it kind of goes down into the basement and comes back up and stuff. But I want to do that. I want to make this as clean as possible, but also just as clean and elegant looking as possible. So I'm going to probably be using like nickel plated tubing, like hard tubing with fittings everywhere. But in terms of ease of working on this, you can see up here, this entire thing just comes out. And this is that one wire I was telling you about. We've got a bunch of these here because we've got 3 up front, 3 in the top, 3 in the back, 3 more on the top. So you can daisy chain these, and I'll probably end up daisy chaining the top rads together so I just have one wire. But you've got one PWM cable. You've got a jumper here for splitting off your ARGB. There's the actual RGB right there that goes into like the motherboard and stuff. And then that one cable goes into here, and then it daisy chains to the rest of the fans. And they also daisy chain in order, so when you do ARGB, they're in the right order, which is pretty neat. But this is the tray here that you attach your radiators and stuff to. So what we're gonna do right now is sort of a fitment. This is a filter that goes in the top. I'm not really feeling so inclined to use the filter for an exhaust. So this is an EK Waterblocks CE or Coolstream CE 420. So this is a thicker radiator. Obviously we've got lots of room at the top. So because I'm not able to add a crap ton of radiators, I could put a 420 in the front, but I think that would look silly not going all the way to the top. And we'll show you why I can't fit, did I say 420? I meant a 280. I could fit a 280 in the front. But there's already some little things I've got to do here. Because the tanks on this are bigger, You can see you've got these pass-throughs right here. Like this is where the fittings would go. If I go to put this down, and I'll kind of show you this first. You see how the screws sort of stick through? Like they're longer than they need to be to hold together the ends. And you can see those like surface marks all over it, like I was talking about. I hate the finish. Amazing product, I hate this dusted finish. Anyway, those interfere with the end tanks. Now I do have another 420 rad that I fit in here that fits just fine. So it has everything to do with the end tank design on these particular cases. But when I go to, or radiators, but when I go to put this in, which you'll notice, oh yeah, I already loosened them. Ha, I was like, it fits down in there. So if I tighten these screws all the way, which see how this one's like sticking out, then it won't allow the radiator to move over enough to allow these necks, the necks of the fittings, to actually fit down in there. So that's something you gotta keep in mind with this particular setup. That's gonna be simple enough for me just to Dremel off a millimeter or two of the screw. I've got tons of extra screws because Inwin gives you extras. I still got them from the Tau 2.0 and stuff I built for Terry Crews. So I can shave those down a bit and then this will fit in there just fine. And then as you can see, in terms of the amount of room that you've got, you could still do even push-pull on this. Actually, no, you can't do push-pull on this. Oh wait, I think you can do push-pull if you ditch the filter. And that's why I always do these sort of fitments first. So as you can see, we could do push-pull because this still goes up higher and it's fully open right there. It's kind of nice though, because they're right next to each other, like both of these trays, like I'll just be able to have both radiators next to each other and one fitting go doot, 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 into the other one. I don't think I'm gonna do dual loops in this. I kind of want to. I don't think it's gonna be necessary though. It's gonna be dual 2080 Ti graphics cards. In fact, they're gonna be my For the Win 3s that I've been hanging on to for the right build for a long time. I've got two of these guys and I've got EK water blocks for these. So fun fact, this is actually gonna be the first time I've ever used a partner card in one of my builds. My personal builds from the beginning of time, long before YouTube, have always been using reference cards. And the reason for that is because back in my day when I was a Ute, nobody made blocks for the custom cards. Well, that's all changed. So obviously we've got two EK water blocks right here for the For the Win 3s. I've got nickel and black back plates because I don't know which ones I'm gonna use yet. Black might be the right move for this build. But like I said, I really wanna go blingy, like the opposite of Dark Knight. I want it to be the bling knight. And I'm finally getting to do my, my bin idea where I said earlier that I'm gonna have these bins that go up there and all the extra parts for things go in there so I can keep track of stuff, little bits that come off. We're gonna be putting two terabyte MP600 SSDs. So although these are PCIe Gen 4 and we're not using a PCIe Gen 4 motherboard, these are still plenty fast. So 4 terabytes of M.2. But for motherboard, I'm going with the Asus Rampage 6 Xtreme Omega. It's almost as extreme as its name is long. This is kind of like a baby Dominus, actually. Like it's got two fans up in here, which looks, this is very reminiscent of the Dominus, actually. I think Phil would agree. This is like a baby Dominus right here. I do plan on overclocking it, obviously. But in terms of CPU, for a little bit of nostalgia's sake here, and it's really dirty right now, I gotta clean it up. This is our 9980XE. This is the CPU that we originally were competing with Steve on the RipGN series. So because it overclocks very well, I got this one to 5.8 gigahertz on ice water. I won't be, or no, dry ice. I won't be doing ice water on this, obviously, but I know I'll probably be able to get 4.8 out of it on water, no problem whatsoever. I'm gonna use this, it's already been lapped and stuff. But what I wanna do right now, just so I can start doing some fitting and make this video somewhat coherent, I guess. This video seems kind of everywhere. Yeah, you guys wanted it. Oh, hey, look, they give you a wrench. I was like, how do I get this piece off right here? I was like, ooh, shiny. Hey, look at that. So that's how you get this fan shroud off, is you have to use their, it's kind of like when you buy coilovers for a car and you get the spanner wrench that comes with it. But I'm gonna go ahead and mount the motherboard real quick so we can see just how much room we have. I have a feeling we'll have plenty of room over here for me to do pass-throughs as well. So the vertical mount on this is already installed. I just went ahead and took it out, but I just wanted to show how it actually mounts to the normal IO for the rear, and then you can adjust its height and stuff. But once you take this out, you can then fit regular stuff. And this will fit a triple slot vertical mount, as you can see. This might be the only time that a EATX X299 board looks small, to be honest. I mean, after all, it is designed to fit the Dominus, which will fill out this entire square. It'll go all the way to the ends. But anyway, I'm sure some of you by now are wondering how the heck you get to the back here, because you're like, wait, if everything is covered by this back panel, how do you get to your IO? This piece gives you access to the back panel. And you've got clips right here. And as you can see, there is a hole here that's designed for all your cables to go through right there. They can come through the clip, route through here and up into your deal. And as you can see, you've got 3 140mm exhaust fans. Because we've got some pretty unobstructed airflow on the front, as you can see right here, for the front 140mm, we can control our balance with fan control so that we can speed these up and slow these down. The idea of having dual 420mm radiators at the top, getting the coolest air being pulled through, means that we don't have to run our fans super fast. That's also why I'm gonna be perfectly fine, I think, with doing a single loop, but I might do dual pump. And I'm working with Singularity Computers on the setup for the pump and stuff. So I gotta see what options we have for dual D5 stuff. So I just put these drive cages back in the bottom, but it just dawned on me too, we don't really have much in the way of pass-through for these wires down here. So our ARGB header is right there, and that's the only one we have on this board, so that's what everything's gonna rely on. Everything's in a daisy chain from there anyway, so that's fine. But you can see there's no real grommet pass-through here. Like there's this here, which isn't rubberized or anything, which is kind of normal. But we've got that wire that needs to go through there. We've got our front side USB and USB-C and all that sort of stuff that's gonna go there. So what I think I'm gonna do, because I don't like the way these holes look down here, I'm probably gonna just make either an ABS or an acrylic plate for the bottom of this. Just a rectangle that fills this out and makes it smooth. Heck, I may even do sheet metal, I don't know. This is a build, guys, it's gonna probably have lots of parts, and it's gonna probably also take a long time. But I'm in no rush to do this because this is gonna be my build for years. So I want the details to be there. The things I wish I could have done with Skunkworks that I have the ability to do now, I wanna do it right. So I think I'm gonna make a cover for this and then drill the holes for the pass-through exactly where they need to be so they're super clean. The thing is, I've looked all over the internet and I haven't been able to find really any custom builds done in this yet. I've seen some people do some builds, but not like over the top. So I'm kind of coming up with this on my own. So what I'm gonna do next, now that I got the motherboard in here, I'm going to put the water blocks on the graphics cards and mount the graphics cards where they go so I can see how things sort of line up. Now this is the part where you probably have already typed, but Jay, you said SLI is dead. Why are you doing SLI? It's an enthusiast thing. That's the only explanation I have. So that's what 2 water-cooled EVGA for the Win 3s look like, 2080 Ti for the Win 3s. The silver on this isn't gonna match very good. I'll have to see what other options I have for 3-slot bridges. So here's the nickel-plated block. I decided we're gonna go with nickel plating for the back because I guess I have a black backplate and nickel backplate because I wasn't sure which was gonna look good. The For the Win 3 card has, as you can see, an RGB header, and this has RGB. And it would have been neat to be able to control it through the software. And a fan header, which would have been neat to be able to control the radiators by one of the graphics cards so that when the graphics card goes under load, it ramps up the radiator. But EK felt it was a good idea to completely block them off. So considering that this is not like some sort of a universal card, it's made specifically for this one, I feel like that was just a completely lazy move on their part. So shame on you, EK, for taking away functionality that's built into my card that I did want to use. So the reason why we just went through all that, and it took me forever to install these blocks, was because now we can see just how much room we actually have. You can see we've got a boatload of room on the right side for me to be able to do reservoir and pump and stuff over there and have it show. So what I started to say earlier was that I can't do a front 420 radiator because sure, there's 3 140 fans right there, but as you can see, the upper cage comes in front of the fans right there. So even if I used a slim fan, which I do have slim fans, not just the fat ones, we would interfere with this cage right there. So we would not be able to do that. In fact, Phil even just asked me if we could take the fans and put them to the front side and then do the radiator right here. The problem is, based on what I'm seeing right here, that would put the fans less than 5 millimeters away from the face of this panel, or like right up against it. So, but I think 2 420s with the 45 mil thick versions are gonna be just fine. So that's kind of where we are now at the start of this build. You can see why I went with this. And I think all the nickel plated parts are certainly going to give this a very, very classy look. Anyway, there you go. You guys, if you guys have any sort of thoughts on what I should do with this build, I'd like to hear them. I said before, and I'm gonna say it again, my audience is smarter than me. Many of you are way more creative than I am, and you come up with some really cool stuff that I would have never thought of. Like the way I overcame a certain tube in the Dark Knight theme that you guys haven't seen yet. That will be in the later video.
So much.
Dude, that's probably the prettiest build I've ever done. In my opinion, prettier than Skunkworks and still way more basic.
Agreed.
So you guys are definitely gonna wanna watch that video after you watch this one, which you've already done now because now we're at the end. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, we'll see you in the next one.
Shut up, Wesley. Not now, Wolf.
The way Worf always dies, or not dies, but gets hurt.